Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pop Go the Writers. I'm anticipating it now and getting ready. So,
It would be the same without it. I don't feel right until I hear it.
I hope everybody's having a good time, a good weekend. I binged watched a ton of TV this weekend. Lisa came down and we caught up on Only Murders in the Building, which will have its season finale drop Tuesday. Cannot wait for that. Also, we watched 10 episodes of Sandman. We didn't get a chance to do the bonus episode yet.
Was
I'll
that
probably,
really? It really was bonus. Is that how? Do I understand that correctly?
yeah, they did 10 episodes. They dropped it. That was it. And then, like a week later, they dropped another episode.
Amazing.
Yeah, which adapts two short stories from later in the next section. That was
Wow.
four short stories. So they took two of those. The Calliope one about
Calliope.
Calliope,
Yeah.
and the one about the cats who
Hmm.
dream.
I that's just amazing. I thought it was Marvel Studios was the only people who could keep secrets.
Well, that's the smartest thing I've seen Netflix do in a long time, because you know that what we talked about. I've harped about this. That I think one of the biggest problems with Netflix is they put out a show, just dump it out there. It gets
Hmm.
talked about for a week and then it's gone, and the next thing is covered.
Yeah.
And this bought an extra week of coverage.
I think everybody should do that. I'm really hoping that a show that I watch that somebody will do that to get a whole extra, or not only an extra episode but an extra like double episode.
Yep. Well, what they said was that it was the deciding factor of why they went with Netflix. Is Netflix was okay with the idea of doing an extra episode or a bonus episode, where other stations were like, "Oh, that's just kind of silly" or whatever.
Hmm.
I think it's brilliant. And
Yeah.
you haven't watched Sandman, have you?
No. Mm-mm.
Any interest in it, or
No. No, I haven't read I haven't read the comics, and I was never really interested in those. So no, I'm really thrilled to hear how much people like it. For the people that I know who really like it, I'm really glad for them. It sounds like it's really up there as far as a comic book adaptation goes.
um, I haven't read the comics, but
Hmm.
I did listen to the audiobook performance they
I
did recently,
remember. Yep. Yep.
and that was brilliant. I've seen a lot of people call this series the perfect adaptation.
Mm,
I don't agree with that.
mm,
I think it's good. I think it's a
mhm.
really good story. Um, I think they made some changes that I understand, some that I don't. Some characters that I thought could have used a little more screen time and didn't get. Others that, they kind of move some stuff around,
Mhm,
merge things together to make it make a little more sense.
mhm.
So overall, I think it's a good adaptation. I think I do have some nitpick things about it. Um, but having Lisa watch it with me this weekend, I was kind of fascinated because she doesn't have the comic or the audiobook. She's sitting down and watching it fresh.
Yeah,
And one of the things there were some nitpicks she had as well, but one of the things that bothered her was the casting of Jenna Coleman as Joanna Constantine and calling her Constantine,
mhm.
and the other was the casting of Gwendolyn Christie as Lucifer. You know,
Okay.
and she was like, "Why didn't they just use Tom Ellis and Matt Ryan, who people already know, especially Tom Ellis, because that show went from Fox to Netflix,
You know?
and that it she thought that it would actually make it better to see those familiar faces, you know.
But she had watched those, is that right?
She had watched all, she loved Lucifer.
Okay.
and she had watched some of the different Constantine appearances.
I know this is going to sound weird, maybe, but could it be that they did this because they felt it would be too distracting to have those, that they brought with them a whole, or they brought with them baggage from their own, appearances and shows, that it would just be too distracting to bring them in, and they thought it would be less distracting to recast, if you even want to call it that, and then also and gender swap.
But we live in an era where something like the MCU,
Hmm.
there's this cohesiveness, and people want that. They're used to it.
Well, would you call it the equivalent? Let's say they recast Matt Murdock. Is this? Would you say that would be like the equivalent to this?
Yeah,
How people would feel about that?
yeah, I think it is. I mean, Matt Ryan started off on NBC on Constantine,
Mm-hmm.
and it got canceled. And then they started using him as the voice actor for Constantine in
Mm-hmm.
animated stuff. Then he ends up on Legends of Tomorrow, so he kind of became, and everything DC's been doing for the last few years, it's been Matt Ryan. Tom Ellis, his Lucifer show went from Fox over to Netflix. But when they did the Crisis on the CW,
Mm-hmm.
there was a scene where Matt Ryan had to go to hell, and he had to go to Lucifer to get permission or a way in, and it was Tom Ellis.
Right, I remember that now because I did actually watch that. Okay,
And
has that been addressed? Has anybody asked them, or have the producers been, asked?
well, the word that I've been seeing is that they think that it was a choice to go with female actors to really break away from that.
Oh, okay.
And I don't have a problem with the gender swapping,
Mm-hmm.
because there is the Joanna Constantine that shows up in the past.
Yeah, sure.
In the story. But what I do have a problem with is the casting itself, because Jenna Coleman, to me, John Constantine's an a-hole.
Mm-hmm.
He always has been.
Mm-hmm.
He has to be someone who's always going to put whatever it is he's trying to get done above everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
He really doesn't care about people.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point of the character. And Jenna Coleman does not come across that way. It's not built. It just, I couldn't see it in that character.
Mm-hmm.
But she's, I think she's a great actress. Gwendolyn Christie, there was something about her performance that just didn't feel right to me. She had this, I don't know, I never got this menace from her. And she was great in Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
But just, it didn't come across, and for like I said, with Lisa, it didn't even click to her until they walked in and saw Mazikeen, who is also in the Lucifer show. And she's like, well, why isn't this them? It's the same characters, same studio, everything else. So,
yeah. Like you said, breaking up the all boys club, although obviously the characters in Sandman aren't all male, but I guess they just wanted a clean break, or not a break, but rather this is a whole new thing. Let's not bring anything over from previous, productions. Has Gaiman said anything at all about it himself, or
not that I've seen, but I haven't had a chance to really dig that.
As time goes by, somebody may actually address it. One of these days, J.J. Abrams is going to feel comfortable with sitting down and answer all of our questions about the whole, the trilogy of Star Wars, and he's not going to be afraid that he'll never work with Lucasfilm again if he talks. But I always say that given enough time, people will start to talk, and we may find these things out.
Yeah. Now that said, I think some of the casting was absolutely brilliant. I thought the guy, Tom Sturridge or whatever, Sturridge,
Mhm.
who plays Death or
Yeah,
plays Dream,
yeah.
is phenomenal. Um, the casting of Death was great.
Mhm,
Um, also, Desire
mhm,
is another one who really nails it. But the two that stood out to me the most are characters who I didn't necessarily like in the audiobook, and you're not supposed to like them,
mhm,
which is the Corinthian, played by Boyd Holbrook,
mhm,
and John Dee, who's Dr. Destiny, in played by David Thewlis.
mhm,
And both of them are absolutely brilliant to the
mhm,
point where I really found myself liking the Corinthian. And this is a character who's basically the birth of all modern serial killers. He's
mhm.
a nightmare turned, life with teeth for eyes. But he is one of the most charming, charismatic characters that I've seen on TV in a long time, where you just sit there going, oh, yeah. Oh, no, you're perfectly safe with that guy. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. He
Mm.
takes eyes out. It kills people and takes their eyes, but perfectly safe.
Yeah,
And
no
David
problem.
Thewlis, yeah.
As long
David
as he's a nice guy.
Yeah, and
Mm,
David Thewlis is completely insane in the movie, in the show, but you're listening to him and you're like, he's really nice. He's very polite and just really good. I mean, it's kind of weird. So it's a really good show. I don't know if I would call it a perfect adaptation
mm.
because, like I said, I think they trimmed and cut some
Well,
things.
there's no such thing as a perfect adaptation, right? You
Yeah.
know? I mean,
Oh no, the 1960s Marvel cartoons where they took them straight from the comic book pages. Those.
well, I could nitpick some of the voice choices in that. Even as a kid, I remember, there were some high pitched voices that I didn't think were very heroic. Oh boy.
But yeah, I love the fact they did a bonus episode. I haven't had a chance to watch the bonus one yet.
Hmm.
But what's funny is a lot of the people they cast in the bonus episode to play the voices of the different cats are the people who lent their voices to the audiobook. James McAvoy, Michael Sheen, a couple of those people. And then it's David Tennant and his wife, Georgina Tennant.
Mm.
So it's a really cool cast. I'm going to probably sit down and watch it after today's show.
Mm.
So, but we also, before we get to talking to our main topic, which is going to be She-Hulk, you brought up that you're getting ready for Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power.
Yeah.
Now,
I started to really think about that I may be in a good position by not really being not very familiar with anything but Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, because I've been sort of looking into what the first age is and what the second age is, and for one thing, it's very complicated, or it seems very complicated, but I remind myself that it's really just has to be a good show, a good story, a good characters, and that's really all that matters. I'm in an interesting position, and you were just talking about this just now, about somebody who isn't familiar with the source material coming in fresh and watching something. My podcast partner Fred Lefevre, for the show that we do here in Toledo, he has that same thing, and it's fascinating to talk with him because he comes into the Marvel shows without really knowing the source material. He's 10 years older than me, and it's really fascinating. We have a lot of good talks because he doesn't really know it, and it's got to work on him. So I'm thinking I'm now in that position with this Lord of the Rings thing. I do know what happens in the end of the third age, but other than that, I'm kind of a newbie to it, and it's got to work on me, just like millions of other people who don't know this stuff at all.
Yeah, which is where I'm at as well. I've watched the movies, and that's about it. I tried to read it,
Mm-hmm. I
and
remember you saying that.
oh Lord, it was just getting. it's just every once in a while there'd be a song, and I'd be like, "Why is there a song? Do we need a song?"
Because
And
it's Tolkien. That's why.
but the thing was, I saw the first movie, and then I started reading the books,
Oh.
and things in the books would suddenly make me go, "Wait, how long was Gandalf gone
Mm-hmm.
before Frodo left the Shire?"
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
45 years.
Yep. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is a drop in the bucket. That's like 4 years to them.
yeah. And then the other thing is that I enjoyed the movies, but every once in a while I would stop and start doing stuff like, why are they walking? Why don't they have horses?
Mm-hmm.
Aragorn has a horse in the beginning. Why don't they just ride? Build a pony. There are horses in this world. Why are they walking to
The
Mount
ponies
Doom?
would never be able to keep up with the horses.
And then you have to go back to, what about the giant eagles? Why didn't just Gandalf had
You are the
Radagast?
wrong person to watch Lord of the Rings.
I am
Yeah,
because I start thinking about stuff like that. Because
yeah, yeah,
Radagast the Brown could have sent a couple of giant eagles to
yeah.
carry them and just go bloop and drop it off. Been done.
And then there's no story, right? And then there's no story. Oh my!
Yeah.
And of course, stupid me. I'm reading online comments all along, and people already bitching about it. It's the diehard Tolkien fans who I respect to a point, but but just some of the excuses that they're coming up with to not watch the show are just amazing. Like some people complaining about how they're going to be taking thousands or hundreds or thousands of years and condensing some events so that they don't have to keep recasting the human characters. And it's like that's like a silly reason
Yeah.
I heard that they're going to cram everything together in the space of a few years. I'm not going to watch that show. Like, okay, it might be fun, it might be good.
I
I'm
I'm,
gonna I'm gonna get the free trial, and I'm gonna get probably about 5 episodes or so out of it, and that should be enough for me to decide whether or not to keep going with it.
yeah. Yeah, I'll watch it. I'm looking forward to it. I love the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, and I love this world, so
Mhm.
I'm game for more.
Good.
Um, and I'm not going to go in there with that idea, but I look at adaptations, and it's kind of funny to me, and I don't know if I've told you the story before, but my idea of adaptations, or my concept that I have of what an adaptation should be, comes from Todd McFarlane.
Hmm.
I went to a convention in LA early on when Image had just started. Spawn had been out a little while. They were
Hmm.
doing the Spawn animated series on HBO,
Hmm.
and they had the Spawn movie. I think had just come out or was around that time.
Hmm.
And I went, and he did a panel, and somebody said, "Why did they cast DB Sweeney as the best friend?"
Hmm.
I don't remember the name at the moment. It's been a long time since I
Hmm.
read Spawn, but his best friend, when the character's supposed to be black.
Hmm.
And he said, because DB Sweeney was the best actor for the role.
Hmm.
He said, it worked for me. He says, but the fact is that the comic books are my telling of the story. The animation series is that crew's telling of the
Hmm.
story. The
Hmm.
movie is that person's version of the story. Just because the three exist doesn't negate the others, you know?
That's very interesting that he considers the story as the prime thing, and that even that he himself is doing an adaptation of it. That's a really fascinating way to look at it, and would be hard to get that concept across to a lot of people. But yeah, that's very interesting. And I mean, I pretty much accept that.
Yeah.
I know that a film or TV series adaptation has to be different from a written uh, adaptation. It's just two different beasts, and
Mhm.
there are all these different factors that come in, and it always amazes me to this day that there are people who just don't get that. You
Yeah.
know, what will work in a book or a novel or even a comic book is just most times not going to work in a film production that has different demands.
Yeah.
You
And some,
know,
yeah, and sometimes you condense things or change to it fit into the universe
yeah.
you're creating. Marvel does it all the time.
Here's a great example. As far as Lord of the Rings go, I love Tom Bombadil. The character of Tom Bombadil, it's one of my most favorite parts of Lord of the Rings. My favorite part of Fellowship of the Ring, the first book. Love, love, love Tom Bombadil. Could talk about him forever. Who the hell is he? Why does he do what he do? Blah, 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 blah. Totally cut out of the movie. Totally, utterly cut. And I agreed with that though. I
Mhm.
mean, I could have sat there and said, "I'm not going to go see this. It's he's not in it," or blah 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 blah. But it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
Uh, for the audience that goes to see a movie, it would not have worked to suddenly had this guy who is basically God, except running around in the forest as an old man, to suddenly be thrown in there and then try to explain him or not explain him for
Yeah.
that matter.
Well, it's like Sandman.
Hmm.
One of the characters from the comics that doesn't make it into the TV show is that in one of the episodes, Martian Manhunter shows up
Hmm.
in one of the issues.
Yeah.
You can't throw Martian Manhunter into the middle of this series
No.
and not be able. I mean, that's something you have to explain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is a really good example.
yeah.
What do they do in the adaptation?
They just kind of skip that part of the story,
Okay. Okay.
and it works. And they do.
Well, okay, so there's the justification for it. Hey, we took him out, and guess what? The story still worked.
Yeah,
Same with Tom Bombadil. We took him completely out, and guess what? They just go from going into the old forest, and then suddenly they're at Bree, and it's
yeah.
like, yeah,
It's like
we're-
Indiana Jones. You could take Indiana Jones out of the movie, and the Nazis are still going to die when they open the Ark of the Covenant at the end.
right,
It's still
Right.
going to be the same ending.
right. It's just that the ark just sits there forever on that island, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Indy doesn't do anything in the entire movie. He doesn't change anything.
That's the best example of all. I think that's got to be the greatest example. I'm glad you told me that one. That's great.
Yep. So, all right. But I know I'm looking forward to Lord of the Rings because again, it's a great universe. But we're also talking that they're not in this case they're not adapting a story. They're adapting
Right.
the additional appendixes
Right.
that they did in like the Silmarillion and these different books
Right.
that are basically the equivalent of if you're in Hollywood a show Bible.
Mm-hmm.
The background stuff that
Mhm.
is just knowledge, but not actually told in the story.
Right. And
You know?
and I've read up on that of what they are allowed to use and what they're not allowed to use, and it's basically that they were given the rights. They bought the rights to the appendices of Lord of the Rings, and really, not a whole lot more. And the Tolkien estate told them they have to hit these points, but other than that, they can add characters, and they did. I was just reading how they completely added in the sister of one of the main elven characters. She's a totally new character, and it probably doesn't change anything.
Right.
There's the example of an addition to the narrative, and it doesn't change anything. It's not going to wreck the story at all, because obviously Tolkien probably glossed over 100 or 200 years, and who the hell knows what actually happened in those 100 to 200 years.
Yep. And getting us towards where we want to talk about, here's another example. One of the most popular characters in the MCU right now is Wong, who's currently the Sorcerer Supreme.
Mm-hmm.
Not a magic user in the comics.
Mm-mm.
Basically, his manservant valet guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And not necessarily one of the most popular characters of the comic books. I mean, you people like him or whatever, but he's certainly not the character from the movies now.
Right. But they
Yeah.
got a good actor,
Mhm.
actually a great actor, to
Mhm.
play the part. And I was surprised when they cast him.
Mhm.
For two reasons. One, because I had seen him in Marco Polo
Mhm.
as Genghis Khan, and he was amazing in that.
Mhm.
So to see him suddenly jump into the MCU as Wong was kind of weird. But then if you think about it, you have a movie starring a guy named Benedict Cumberbatch, and you go out and get a guy named Benedict Wong to play Wong.
To play Wong, right? Yeah, they only hire people named Benedict.
Benedict Samuel should be next. He'll be popping up. Yeah, there's a couple other Benedict actors out there. They should get them soon.
And they all demand eggs Benedict there from the food truck on the set.
Benedict Samuel actually showed up in Gotham in season 3, I think it was, as the Mad Hatter. So it'd be fun to see him pop up as a small character.
My theory now with the MCU is that it is the equivalent, today's equivalent to the Batman TV series of the 60s, which we know by legend was that everybody wanted to be on that show. So now today it's like everybody's going to end up in the MCU eventually, no matter, Henry Cavill's going to end up in the MCU one of these days. I don't know as who, but they're all going to end up in this movie series because it is the place to be.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about a universe that has had Robert Redford, Meryl Streep, Sylvester Stallone.
Right. Yeah, right.
Names. I mean,
yeah.
You
know what? If they could somehow create like one of the TV series that the setup would be that a whole bunch of like different guest stars and it could make cameos in it. That's what they really need right now.
Yeah, I could see that. Marvel 2-in-1, just a new hero every week.
No, it should actually have a female star, right? And have a setup that would allow for lots of guest stars.
It seems that you'd be talking about something here. I wonder if we could get maybe Robert De Niro as Dominic Fortune.
God. Wow. And Henry Cavill could play his young self.
There you go. Yeah.
Robert De Niro.
All right. We seem to be moving towards talking about She-Hulk, Attorney at Law.
Attorney at Law. Don't forget that subtitle.
I found out today why they suddenly added the subtitle. Because there is that line where Bruce Banner or Smart Hulk is joking on the phone. He goes, She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. I like the sound of that. Kevin Feige saw that in the dailies and went, I like the sound of that too. That should be the title. And it became the title.
Wow.
I'm always amazed by how these little minor things Kevin Feige is involved in.
Yeah.
Because you would think at his role, he would be like the 10,000 foot view. And he's not. He really gets down into the nitty gritty to the point where we'll get to it in the conversation, but the information that Hulk gives to Jennifer at the bar in the closing credit scene came from Kevin Feige. He's the one that knew that information.
And all he has, and then sometimes he jumps online and sees that everybody wants a certain actor as Reed Richards, and he just made it happen. And wow, okay.
I think Kevin Feige's having the time of his life.
As long as he doesn't get accused of micromanaging. I mean, I'm hoping that everybody who works for him likes him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just take a look at Doctor Strange movie. That is the most Sam Raimi movie I have seen in a long time. It had every little Sam Raimi-ism from the push-in shots to his car to having the same extras walking by multiple times. All these silly little things that Sam Raimi does. Kevin Feige was like, go for it. As long as you fit within the narrative we're trying to tell.
Yep.
Tell your movie. Have fun.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think Kevin, like I said, I think Kevin Feige is just having the time of his life.
I hope so, and we're all benefiting for that.
Yeah. All right. So She-Hulk Attorney at Law.
She-Hulk, yay!
I thought it was interesting because from reading the interviews and stuff with like Jessica Gao, the head writer, Kat Coria, the director, it would have started very differently. The origin story that we get wasn't going to show up until like the 8th episode. They didn't plan on starting with that. They wanted to jump right into it.
I'm a little surprised they didn't.
Yeah. And but the test audience and stuff all really wanted to know right away what, and the line she says when she turns to the audience and says, "You guys aren't going to be able to concentrate till you know this story."
Yeah, so let's just get it out of the way.
Because that's how test audiences reacted. So they're like, "Sure, let's do it." So that's why there's a couple. You can tell with the CGI. There's some places it looks great, and some places it's like, are we avoiding getting to see She-Hulk here?
Oh yeah, I know what you mean, but I thought that was just like, let's just hold off on the full reveal, But
yeah, well, no, I think it was done well.
Yeah, so. I didn't think about it. It's funny. I mean, with all that was said about the CGI, and we almost saw the progression of it. Really, I didn't really think about that through the show. I was getting invested in the characters and what was going on, and Hulk looked okay to me, so that was all that I needed. I think I was surprised at how much it's Hulk and not Mark Ruffalo, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, we got him in the beginning, but what I was amazed was just how much Hulk information we got.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
and there's a danger in that, because it could literally, like, if you're starting off with him, it could be like, whose show is this? And obviously that's a joke in the show too. Like, don't forget whose show this is.
Exactly. But yeah, it was really impressive. I mean, just we got so much Hulk information.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, they've really kind of balanced the stuff. The feminism aspect of the show, kind of showing that, what women deal with on the anger and basis compared to men, and and just.
And I didn't feel threatened one moment. I felt like I was in a safe space. All was good. She's good. I'm really taken with her. She really, really held her own with Mark Ruffalo, and then actually came out, on top, so to speak. And that's good, because now I'm ready for whatever 8 more episodes with her as the star. Although I hope we see him again. It would, I hope that's not the complete end of him in the show. It would be nice, but he did a lot. If that was it, I give him credit. He did a lot, including getting a setup for his own whatever, right?
Yeah, there was
spoilers.
There is a clip that shows him on the phone with her that hasn't been in the scene. Yeah, okay. So I think he does pop up later.
Oh, like he's checking in with her, or she's checking. Okay. But,
yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the spaceship in the room.
Okay. Do you want to put a spoiler thing up?
Yeah, probably a good idea.
The 800-pound spaceship in the room.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, everybody. Spoilers. Of course, her powers comes from the car accident, and the car accident is caused by a Sakaar spaceship. So somebody is sending him a message.
Genius.
And then you have to start wondering, behind the scenes, there's a lot of rumors going on that they're finally going to do another solo Hulk movie. But it won't be until mid-2025 or later. And the reason that is because that puts it far enough away from the last live action Hulk movie that the rights revert back to Marvel. They don't have to share distribution rights with Universal.
Mm-hmm.
So supposedly that's why it is. And we're being told, or the rumor is that they're finally going to do a Planet Hulk story.
World War Hulk.
World War Hulk, excuse me. Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah. Because we basically have the Planet Hulk story with Thor Ragnarok.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of setup that would need to be to do a World War Hulk story. You know, you'd have to bring in the fact that he's got a son.
Yeah.
You got to bring in the fact that his wife got killed, the revenge. I mean, you'd have to give him a reason to be angry at the world and to go after. We don't even have the Illuminati.
Not a 616 Illuminati.
Yeah,
that we know of, unless it's just been a big secret all along, right?
yeah. But you know, he chose to fly off into Sakaar. I mean, there's going to be a lot of back writing, retcon to make it work.
Yeah, but he said he's got to look into this.
Yes. So there's definitely plans for something.
Do you think any announcement at D23?
I think it'd be too soon for that.
It's just wishful thinking then?
Yeah, I think. Well, I look at the schedule they had worked out when they laid it out, and they showed us phases 4, 5, and 6. Now, 4 was wrapping up. They showed us all the movies in phase 5, except for one open spot. And then phase 6, there was 2 open spots.
Right.
Based on when Marvel picks movies or, you know, racks up movie slots or reserves movie slots. So I don't see it being in before the next 2 Avengers movies.
Okay.
I think it would be after that. Maybe they squeeze it in but I still think the movies we're going to get are Deadpool 3, Shang-Chi 2, and Eternals 2.
Mm-hmm.
And we finally got a sort of confirmation on Eternals 2 from Patton Oswalt saying, yeah, we're doing another Eternals movie, and Chloe Zhao is coming back to direct it.
Do you think that we'll get TV series announcements?
We'll get TV series announcements. Those will be separate. So it's just, I'm looking at what movie slots they have already saved through 2025.
What about, this is just some off-the-cuff thinking, what about World War Hulk as a series? Or it's got to be bigger than that, right?
I think it's got to be because your budget would have to be.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. See, my thing is that Mark Ruffalo is not getting any younger. You know, do this now.
Yeah, but does he need to be?
Here's the thing. If they somehow folded the Maestro into the World War Hulk thing, or they just do that story, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, there is all of that. Like I say to myself, what would Ruffalo have a better time? What would he feel would be a bigger, you know, acting challenge or something that he really wants to do with the character? And I keep heading towards the Maestro.
Yeah. But even if we're looking at 2026 or 2027, it's not that far off.
Yeah, and plus if they film it in the next year or so and then, you know, it's not released or I get what you're saying. Sure. I'm just, here's me. It's like, I can never have enough. It's like, we know all these movies and shows that are coming out and it's going to keep us happy for the next couple of years, but I want more announcements. You know, I want that Man-Thing movie announced or TV series or, you know, I want Dracula to be announced as the next big baddie, you know. We talked about that, but I'm thinking Wonder Man maybe as one of the series.
Yeah, I mean they talked about a Wonder Man movie, but I think he's a TV series.
Absolutely, totally that. Yeah.
They also talk about a Nova project. I think that's a TV series.
Yeah, we're getting down to, what are the exclusions right now? What have we not gotten into? And I would say no is probably pretty big. When we get down to what we're down to,
Yeah.
that's kind of big.
But then again, they might go movie, or Nova might end up leading into whatever the Guardians of the Galaxy becomes
Yeah.
after the next Guardians movie, because we know James Gunn's done. We
Mhm.
know some of the Guardians are done. Dave Batista says he's tired, he's done,
Hmm.
mainly because he doesn't want to do movies without his shirt on anymore.
Yeah, right.
You
They can
know?
give him a costume.
Yeah. Um,
Hmm.
so I see certain things starting to wrap up and moving into new projects, but they're getting to a point where they have so many characters active
Mm-hmm.
that you have to start wondering, okay, how do we do? It's my complaint is that everybody gets a first movie, and then the second movie has a few extra heroes put into it, and then
Yeah,
the third movie is a giant crossover event.
yeah, yeah.
So it's they almost just stop naming the movies. Just
Marvel Studios movie number 59.
yeah,
Is
Marvel Adventures starring, and then just
No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Or just call it, like you said earlier, Marvel Team Up.
yeah.
Marvel 2-in-1.
Well, it's like Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
Yeah,
Basically, Black Panther and Namor.
yeah,
It would have been that. I mean, that was what it is. It's
yeah.
and if Chadwick
Well,
Boseman was still around,
but
it
this is
still would have
them
been.
having a good time. You said the thing about, Feige seems like he's having a good time. This is them having a good time. This is them finally having all of the crayons that they wanted in all the colors. They got the big 64 box, and
Yeah,
they're going nuts with it. And for the most part, everybody's loving it, and like they're like me. They have a big appetite and they want to see all this stuff. But I do agree. That's a really interesting point that you made about how many characters they have active right now. And they only have so many movies and they only have so many series, and if you get people who fall in love with the way they're doing the characters, but then they have to wait for how long until something happens
yeah.
more with them, like again, like Doctor Strange and Clea, like how long do we have to wait until we see Clea back? It's just
Well, and then you look at something like Agatha Harkness or Agatha Coven of Chaos.
yeah,
It's like, is that really what we want right now?
yeah. And you
It
know
might
what,
be spectacular, and I'll watch it. But
I know everybody got all excited about her from WandaVision, but the second that they announced it, I said, really? Like,
yeah,
okay, but why? Like, why take a slot? Unless again, that's going to be the launching pad for like more of the monster characters.
yeah,
I mean, does Damon Hellstrom, walk on and suddenly it's the Damon Hellstrom and Agatha show? I don't know. I don't know. Ghost Rider is the other one. Now,
yeah.
do they have to wait a certain time to do anything like a big Ghost Rider thing?
I think they're past that.
Okay.
The only things I know that they're waiting on, or the rumors are that they're waiting on, I don't know. Of course, there's never any verification from Marvel on this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sure.
Universal, the deal with Universal, so they can't do a solo Hulk or Namor movie until after 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And the X-Men, they can't move forward with characters that have existing actors attached to them
Right.
till I think it's 2025 as well.
Right. Well, Man Thing was the rights were owned by one of the studios. There was that TV movie.
Yeah.
So not that I think they ever are going to do a Man Thing movie, or a big solo project, but so I suppose they can use him at any time just in,
Yeah.
I'm hoping he does show up in Agatha though.
Yeah, that would be cool. And I have that TV movie on disc somewhere.
Yeah. I hear it's pretty bad. I never saw it.
They do some smart things with it.
Hmm.
like they really don't show us Man-Thing for most of the movie.
Okay.
They do that thing where they let him be creepy. They let him be the monster in the shadows.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they, it's a TV movie,
Mm-hmm.
but there's some good things in there. So it felt like a comic book issue.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Did you ever see the David Hasselhoff Nick Fury movie? You know what's funny about it? He looked okay in the part. I mean, other than that, but he actually looked okay.
Yep. Oh my God. Yeah. See, that's the problem is that at a certain point, that's all we had.
Mm-hmm.
We had the Reb Brown
Yep.
Captain America, or later on the Mark Salinger version.
Yep. You took what you got.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that was basically my childhood. We watched the Nicholas Hammond Spider-Man because that's what we had. We didn't have anything else. You
Yep.
took it. You wanted superheroes, and you took what you got.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We watched the Roger Corman Fantastic Four because there was a bootleg of it and we got it, and it was all we had on the Fantastic Four.
Right.
And looking back at it, it's not much worse than what we got. That's what you said.
Yeah.
Because it's not good.
Yep.
I
So,
do-
do you think we're going to get any more surprise guest stars in She-Hulk other than who we
think so.
already know?
I think so. I think we'll end up with a few. I mean, we already get some minor characters showing up, like Porcupine and Man Bull
And the Wrecking Crew.
the Wrecking Crew.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm hoping those aren't going to be just sort of throwaway jokes. You know what I mean? It's like, because whatever they do is pretty much kind of what they're going to be locked into. And so far, it looks like the Wrecking Crew doesn't have costumes.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that it's just like early days. They do a couple of jobs, and then they decide that they want big splashy costumes.
Well, I think we have to remember that the odds that we're going to get to a point where the Wrecking Crew are the big villains in something.
Yeah.
I mean, we got Absorbing Man.
We need more street level villains. Villains, that's what we really need in the MCU, as far as I'm concerned. We really need, we need the Porcupine. We need the Beetle flying around,
I think if they're being introduced in She-Hulk, they're not going to be taken that seriously.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Gil points out that Daredevil and Thor showed up in the Incredible Hulk series.
Yeah, that was yep.
Rex Harrison not Rex Harrison. Is it Rex Harrison?
No, Rex. Oh, that's terrible. Rex. It's a shorter name. Oh, Smith. Rex Smith? No. Isn't that terrible?
He was on the TV show Street Hawk.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and he was a singer in that era.
Wait, who was Thor? Wasn't that
Thor was Eric something or other who had been on. He was in Robin Hood Men in Tights as Little John.
Okay. Am I wrong that did Vincent D'Onofrio ever play some Marvel character? Or
No, Vincent D'Onofrio played in Adventures in Babysitting. The kids end up at one of the kids is obsessed with Thor, and then they show up at this mechanic shop to get the car worked up, and Vincent D'Onofrio plays the mechanic, and he's sitting there and he's holding a hammer, and he's got these long blonde hair. Rex Smith, thank you, Ed.
Rex Smith. Yeah, I knew it was a very simple name. Rex Jones. Okay.
But yeah, so, and the kid thinks that D'Onofrio is Thor.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So he's never played
really
Thor, but he was kind of Thor in Adventures in Babysitting.
Hilarious.
Yeah. Why I know that, I don't. I just.
Oh, that's great.
Yep. So, all right, let's talk about the joke, the running joke in the episode that Jennifer is obsessed with when Steve Rogers might have lost his virginity.
Yeah. My co-host on my podcast, Fred, he said he loved the show, but he didn't appreciate that joke. He said it was completely unnecessary. And he said, why is that even a thing? And I kind of agreed with him at that point. It's like, yeah, that question has never really occurred to me before.
No, but see, and I think that's the whole point.
Oh, okay.
It wouldn't occur to you. It wouldn't have occurred to me. But I know women.
Okay.
That absolutely would occur to them.
I said that to him. I said, Fred, here's my theory. I said, women love and are obsessed with Chris Evans. I said, that's the basis for this entire thing. It stemmed from there. It grew out from there. I said, yeah, because that's not coming from guys.
Yeah.
That's totally coming from women.
Lisa asked me, will ask me all these personal questions. Like I'll be talking about a friend of mine. She's like, well, did this happen? I'm like, I would never ask that question.
Yeah.
But it's, so yeah, I completely believe that is something that a woman would wonder about. And, and so that didn't throw me off at all. I thought it was actually a really good question from her and that she'd be obsessed with it.
Yeah. Here's what I took away from it. It's so funny. Like, forget whatever else is said. At the end, Bruce says Steve Rogers is not a virgin. He didn't say Steve Rogers was not a virgin. He said Steve is. And I take that to mean that Steve is still around somewhere.
Now, the one thing I came out of that was Steve Rogers doesn't strike me as the type to kiss and tell.
No way. Yeah.
So why would he have told Bruce? But I don't remember which show I was watching, but one of the YouTube channels gave this theory, which is he would have lost his virginity around the time that Howard Stark was around.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
And Howard spent a lot of time telling stories about Captain America to his son Tony.
Yeah, yeah.
So I could see Howard finding out about it by just gossip, ended up hooking up with the same girl type of thing. So I don't think Steve told Bruce, and I love this theory, is that Howard found out about it, told Tony when growing up.
Of course.
Tony, drunk and hanging out at the little Mexican bar that they've built, a little bar in Mexico, ends up telling Bruce, and then that's how Bruce has the information.
And they shouldn't be talking about their friend like that. That's all I have to say.
But I could absolutely see that.
Yeah, but of course, if Tony was bitching about Steve, as Bruce said he was, complaining about Steve Rogers, I could kind of see that. Or the other theory that I have is that Bruce is just making that all up to shut Jennifer up.
It was so specific.
I know. And you know what? Online, people have they think they figured out who it is because he said it was some girl on the USO tour.
Yes, and
there's a shot of it's funny that I can't picture exactly who the heck that is from the movie. There's the girl that comes on to him in the bar or wherever they're at, but it's not her. She's the one that kisses him, and then Peggy walks in.
Yeah,
it's not her. It's somebody else.
Yeah, it's not her because that's not during the USO show.
Yeah, right. That's what I was thinking.
There is a woman who comes up to him while he's on the USO show, and she's got a big smile and wants his autograph, and he kind of gives her the double take. Well, the actress this is the fun part. The actress who played that is Laura Haddock, who also went on to play Peter Quill's mother in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, that's why people are saying that he's Peter Quill's grandfather.
Yeah, like maybe that was her mom.
Oh.
So that's, and that the grandfather we meet in is a step grandfather, and it's like, no, just.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of way back when Star Trek II came out, and we found out that BB Besh's character, had a son with Kirk. So everybody had to sit and figure out, well, who was she? How does that fit into the continuity? And they found out that in the pilot episode when Jeffrey, or not Jeffrey Hunter, I can't think of the actor's name. He says something about a little blonde that he threw at Kirk back when they were in the academy or whatever the hell that was, and everybody said that's her. That's the girl. That's BB Besh's character. Blah blah blah. That reminds me of this whole thing of people drawing this stuff together and trying to figure out who it is. It doesn't matter. We shouldn't be obsessed with such a question. Leave him alone.
Yeah. There was also a ton of dancing girls.
No, listen, no. It's Peggy or nobody. I don't care what anybody says. It's Peggy or nobody.
It's not like he was all virginal in the comics. He had girlfriends constantly in the comic. Bernie and then the guy.
But that was after he came out of the ice, right? Oh, that poor guy.
Yep.
Why can't we just have one virgin superhero out of all of them? And if it's got to be one, it's got to be Cap. Come on.
Well, like I said, it's Kevin Feige who gave him the information, so it's canon.
Okay.
So
whatever.
All right. So any final thoughts? We're coming up to the end of the show here. So
let me see. I enjoyed it. I didn't feel threatened. I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. It's 9 episodes. Is that correct? Yes. Wow. And I can't wait to see if we get any surprise guest stars. Really looking forward to Daredevil.
In fact, Jessica Gal worked at Gary's comic shop back in the late 90s. That's where I met her. Really?
Wow.
Gil is a very old friend of mine. When I was a kid, he worked with my mom and would go get my comics from Gary's comic shop. So the head writer on She-Hulk worked at that shop.
Wow. She's got some cred.
Yeah. Now, of course, by the 90s, I was getting my own comics and quite a bit by then. But yeah, that's pretty interesting. Thank you, Gil.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah. So I was really impressed with the series. I thought the fourth wall breaking was used well, not overused.
Yeah, sparingly, but well, yeah.
I didn't expect to see them fight, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was really cool, and really helped to give us an idea of her power level.
Yep, I had no complaints with the CG. I never got taken out of the story by it.
Nope, same here. Same here.
Other than one moment, and it didn't really jump out at me at first, but when they hug goodbye, she kind of leaves her arms out wide, a little long.
I think I know what part you mean.
Yeah. They're standing by the Jeep and she's about to leave.
Yeah.
That, I got no problems. And even that wasn't that big a deal.
Mm-hmm.
So from that point of view, I thought it was a really clever, well-written episode. I thought the courtroom scene, hopefully it'll be explained. The fact that Titania just suddenly comes in.
Yeah.
More explanation on that.
I've seen some very interesting theories about that. One is that it's all staged. Not on She-Hulk's part, but on Titania's part and whoever else. That there's something else going on. But yeah, that was an interesting way to end the episode, is to bring her in real quick and then it's over with. There's got to be way more to whatever that is.
Yeah. So yeah, other than that, I think it was a really good episode. I think it was a lot of fun. I love the use of courtroom sketches for the closing credits.
Yeah, very, very much so. Very much so.
And I hope that means every week we're going to get a different set of courtroom closing credits or the courtroom sketches.
I went on record as saying I think it was one of the best openers for a Marvel series. I'm not going to necessarily say it was the best, but it was, to me, it was definitely one of the best of all the openers so far.
I think it was just really strong television.
Mm-hmm.
It was a strong half hour of television.
Yeah,
So
and a nice little niche, a corner of the Marvel universe that we haven't really had before.
yeah, and I am really looking forward to the next one.
Yeah,
I
same
think I
here.
liked it more than I expected to.
Hmm.
So,
All right.
and I always go into these with open mind and wanting to like them.
Same here.
You
Yeah,
know,
same here.
but this one really clicked a little more than I expected it to.
Yeah, same here.
So all right, folks, that is going to wrap it up for today. We will be back next week to talk more about She-Hulk and whatever else comes up. We will be covering Lord of the Rings when that comes out. We'll be talking about that, and we'll talk about Andor when
Hmm.
that comes out too. So we got a lot of good stuff coming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really great television coming up. Um, if you're interested in more Sandman talk, I will be chatting with Kyle on Tuesday about the rest of the Sandman series. We got through the first 6 episodes, so we'll talk about episodes 7 through 11 on Tuesday. Wednesday, I will talk more about She-Hulk on the Dan Wickline Show, and then Thursday, I will talk about the season finale of Only Murders in the Building. So come join me during the week on the Dan Wickline Show on The Experience, and then Jim and I will be back next week with more She-Hulk. Thank you for tuning in. Everybody have a great week,